In the beginning, I should have mentioned that John and I are current members of the FinCom, and we were the two dissenting votes. And Charlie is a former chairman of the FinCom, so we really have done a lot of careful work on this. And we think we've covered the data and given you another perspective. And what we would like to see happen here is we would like to see the school committee come back in the April town meeting with a very focused proposal about the expansion and renovation of the Miriam School. Because we feel when we look at the data and we look at it in the context of the overall system needs, that a large portion of the issues in the elementary schools could be addressed with expansion and renovation of Miriam. Now, but we need a plan that really looks at that very carefully, and we are being asked to vote on prematurely, we feel, on a plan. It's not a full specification, and we just ask you to keep all of this data in mind as you make your very difficult decision tonight. Thank you.
Okay, I did say that before the meeting began to the school committee that I would allow them a few minutes to respond to several points that the group who just completed their presentation has made. Do you have slides that you're going to put up now? Okay.
You've been awfully patient. I see some people yawning out there. I'm going to try to keep this very brief. Enrollment, Charlie's issues. By the way, he is a really constructive participant, and I actually tried to write an argument for you that took into account a lot of criticisms that he's very thoughtfully made in this process. And whether or not he agrees with the bottom line, I'm grateful to him for making me smarter, and I think for helping a lot of us. But first, enrollment. 3 points. Charlie quoted our enrollment study from a year ago. A year ago, we didn't have the current data. Remember in my presentation how I told you the current data show that our assumptions appear to be low, possibly significantly low? So we're not agnostic anymore. I actually drafted the study in large part that he referred to. We're not agnostic about which way the assumptions lean anymore. Second point on enrollment. You saw a curious graph. It said they're trying to get you to buy a new school to deal with a 4% increase in enrollment. Now you might have scratched your head and said, gee, but I thought I heard Zellico talking about 42% and 50%. Are these guys on the same planet? Well, the answer is yes. Charlie's baseline for calculating the problem is now. My baseline for looking at the problem was how much enrollment's increased over the last 10 years. I told you that we started violating our town policy in 1991. In other words, I'm arguing the baseline is a sufficient reason to act. I'm simply noting the future, saying it's going to get worse, and it's going to be a long, long time beyond the foreseeable future before it gets notably better. Third point, charter schools. First, there is no new elementary charter school that's been approved by the state. It may or may not be approved.
Mr. Moderator, point of order, please.
Yeah, Mr. Cadillac, what is your point of order?
We agreed that the school committee will make comments on our factual presentation. All I'm hearing now is another argument for their position. I don't think the facts are a dispute. I don't think we presented any facts that are inconsistent with the school committee's own presentation. So I think if we're going to continue this debate this way, then we'll go back and make our own rebuttal to the rebuttal which you don't want.
Right, that is certainly correct.
I'm happy, Mr. Moderator, to let the town decide whether they found the 4%, 40% issue confusing or clarifying.
Why don't we do this? Let us confine our remarks to that which we said we would, I'm not positive, Mr. Zelikow, whether you are off the mark or not. So let's be cautious that we're responding only to that which Mr. Cadillac said.
Thank you.
Ms. Seifley or Mr. Prindiville.
I did not say anything about charter schools. Mr. Cadillac raised the issue of charter schools, but no charter elementary school has been approved by the state. If it is approved by the state, it'll serve a number of communities, not just Acton. So estimating its effect is totally speculative, but if you want an example of what the effect might be, look at the Parker School, which is a middle school, but it's expanding its grade coverage. Its effect on our enrollment has been modest to negligible. Mr. Cadillac made a series of points about class size. They were very specific. So I'll try to respond very specifically, but very briefly. First, he made a point about research. He talked about the Great Tennessee Study, which we think is a terrific study. And he said, well, yeah, but that study talked about really low class sizes, 17 to 20. 2 points, and 2 points only. One, let me get this straight. Does Mr. Cadillac now argue because they showed really low class sizes get a great benefit that we shouldn't try to go in that direction? Is he saying that he would support a proposal that sought class sizes of 17 because that's what the study showed had a demonstrable effect? And second, the implication is, but suppose the Tennessee study's results...
I'm sorry, go to the microphone, please.
Mr. Moderator, like Mr. Cadillac, I believe this is pure argument. I must ask you to call the member to order.
Well, I will not. I think it's a very difficult decision. I don't really agree with you. I let him continue, but I'm going to be listening very carefully.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. But giving Mr. Cadillac the benefit of the doubt, the argument could be, yes, but the results of lower class size are not what a statistician would call linear results. So that they get results at this low level, but they don't get results, say, at a decrease from 23 to 22. I'm now quoting from Education Week. The principal investigator of the study said, and I quote, "They are analyzing the data to see whether 15 or 17 is a, quote, magic number, the threshold at which real learning gains start to occur, or if any reduction in class size helps. Would adding or taking away a child in a class of 24 or 25 make a difference?" Quote, this is from the PI of the study. "It looks as though the addition of a child to a class decreases the class scores." Close quote, but they're continuing to look into it. So right now their preliminary finding is it is linear. Second, Mr. Cadillac made an argument that said that what's really at work here is educational philosophy. They want lower class sizes than we had back then because they really want a different educational philosophy than we had back then. The different educational philosophy we want is an educational philosophy that emphasizes much more interaction in the classroom. In other words, just to summarize it, it is a classroom that is predominantly interactive, with much interchange between students and teachers. It makes frequent use of student performances and student comments on the performances. It involves consistent and formal monitoring of the student's understanding. It engages all students by dramatizing learning in various ways. It has been shown that an interactive mode of dealing with the whole class is the liveliest and most effective approach to teaching, and that it is useful to vary the mix with some amount of individual coaching, cooperative learning, and seat work. That is a quote, though, not from one of the new educational stylists, but from E.D. Hirsch, What Our Schools Need. Those of you who follow the educational literature will know that he is an advocate of traditional models of education. Indeed, Hirsch comments a 1 to 20 class size ratio is what he prefers.
Excuse me, now, Mr. Zelikow, I am absolutely certain we're getting beyond the boundary. I wasn't sure at first, but I am now. So if you're going to refer to what Mr. Cadillac said, please just try to keep it to what he said and your response to the specifics. Thank you.
His argument, Mr. Moderator, and I apologize, was that he didn't think class size made a difference. And he spent about 5 minutes making that argument, and I don't think I've spent that much time responding, but I'll promise to spend only 10 more seconds responding. My 10 seconds consist of this. Read this slide. Mr. Moderator, could you leave your...
I hope eventually we'll have a stage big enough so that I can...
You'll notice, by the way, these aren't all rich towns in the comparison. They are Acton from the left, Acton, Air, Boxborough, Brookline, Concord, Maynard, Watertown, Weston, Winchester. Those are the schools against which kids of our town are going to compete. Now let me turn to space. Mr. Cadillac made 2 points on space. First, he said, why not try to find some alternate method of using special education rooms, although he could not propose such a method. We don't have an alternative proposal either. And I'd be glad to defend the particular approach we're adopting in light of the current law. Second, he had I thought the best line of his presentation, the one about too many staff. So I thought about that. So does that mean if we cut the staff, we will get more rooms and lower class size? I'd like to see that analysis if it's there. Or second, or is the argument that with administrative rooms, rooms that could actually become classrooms? No. I stand by the graph I put up, which analyzed every single classroom size room in the system, i.e. any room of 800 square feet, and the state standard for a classroom is 1,000. Now let me turn to Mr. Prendeville's presentation on maintenance. Here I won't take long. There's just one big point about Mr. Prendeville's presentation that changes the whole numbers, which is he counts the McCarthy Town maintenance numbers. Now, the options for dealing with McCarthy Town are 1, tear up and demolish all or part. 2, turn it over to the town for municipal uses or rentals. 3, turn it over to the regional school district for help in solving the regional school problem at lesser expense. Or 4, some other local school use not now foreseen. Mr. Prendeville's chart assumes we choose the 4th and least likely assumption in order to count those numbers against a local school operating budget in which we do not expect those numbers will recur after it goes out of service. And in any case, you'll decide how those buildings will end up being used. Now finally, to the issue of taxes. A lot of slides are basically going to use other monetary choices the town has made in order to attack this choice. Please decide on this choice and this choice's incremental effect. Don't use this as a vehicle for clubbing other things that you don't like. And the final point is, Ms. Seifliet closed by saying that she asks, as their alternative proposal, that at annual town meeting we consider the alternative of renovating the Merriam School. There are a lot of points to make about that, but I won't take up your time and exceed the moderator's patience. Let me just leave you with one. You heard me in my presentation say, while you're renovating the Merriam School, where do you put the hundreds of kids? There is actually a method behind our proposal.
No, there's not going to be any more responses to that. I was unsuccessful slightly. Let's see, now we're going to open it up to general debate. The people at these 3 microphones are going to speak con. The people at these 3 are going to speak pro. This gentleman has been standing the longest, so I'll recognize him. If before you speak, you will give your name and street number, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm Leonard Schwab. I live at 3 Old Lantern Road. And Mr. Moderator, I have 3 view graphs I'd like to use a projector for.
No, go right ahead. Someone said to me, why don't they bring dark glasses to this thing? And I was going to do it, but I forgot.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, I will be brief. I have just 2 points to make in 3 view graphs, so I can't really go on very long, and I really don't like public speaking anyways. I want to talk about 2 things here tonight. I want to talk about the cost versus benefit and about the human factor. And I don't think very much has been said on either of these things. You've heard an awful lot about cost, and I'm not even going to mention the dollar cost. You know what that number is. In my presentation, you won't hear it again. But I want to talk about cost versus benefit first, and that implies a value judgment. And when you seek to look for value, you look for data to try to assess it. And so what I did is, I already did what Charlie had suggested earlier. I had gone to the World Wide Web and downloaded some data. And this data, and I don't have a large enough podium here to lay out all my things, so excuse me for a moment. This graph is a graph that was published by an organization called SuperKids, or at least the name of their site is superkids.com. www.superkids.com on the internet. And it comes from data that was published by the National Assessment for Educational Progress, and also from data that came from a publication that Mr. Zellico mentioned, the Education Week. And let's talk a little bit about what the scales mean here, since there's a lot of impact. We're going to talk about class size and the effect on class size. If you're over at this end of the scale, 100% side of the scale, it says you've got lots of small classes. All of this data is aimed at a class size of 25, and fortuitously, that's very close to what we're talking about here tonight. You saw numbers earlier, 24 to 27. Well, 25 is right in the middle of that, so this data is germane data. So if you have a lot of classes that have small size, you'd be on this end of the spectrum. If you have a lot of classes with many students, you'd be on this end of the spectrum. Well, let's take a look at some of the outliers. You heard Mr. Zellico say that California has this fantastic $620 per student deal. That's California. They need very much to get up there on the spectrum. They have lots of big classes right now. That's why they've got a $620 deal to get smaller class sizes. Let's take a look at the other outlier. The other outlier at the other extreme is Maine. Maybe what we need is some more cold and dark nights so we can get kids to read. Because what this is all about is a national study, a national scores taken across the country. Only about 5 or 6 states did not contribute their data. All the states are listed, including the numbers. If you want to know where Massachusetts is right there, very close. As a statewide, we are very close to the upper end of the spectrum. Where does Acton fit in? Acton fits in somewhere in the middle, I would imagine, because we heard numbers 24 to 27. Well, 25 is right in the middle, so I'm guessing that maybe Acton is somewhere in the 50 to 70% range. Now, what does all this mean? This is what statisticians would call a slightly correlated curve. In other words, if that best fit linear line were horizontal, there would be no relationship to class size. If it were very steep, you'd have a very strong relationship. Instead, what you have is a very shallow relationship. What do those numbers work out to? On a national basis, they work out as follows, and I'm quoting. If the nationwide percentage of elementary classes with fewer than 25 students was raised from 53% to 75%, we would expect the percentage of proficient readers to move from 28% to 31.2%. Not much. That takes care of the numbers. Now I want to talk about something else that haven't heard much about so far. That is the concerns of the elder population. When I talk to some of my elder friends around town, I recall discussions with my mother when she was alive, and discussions with my in-laws who are now in their 70s. And when I go to visit an ex-neighbor who's in a nearby assisted living community, what I hear, the theme that I hear from all of these elders is the same thing. Number one, I'd like to be in my own home. I really want to stay in my own home. Number two is a worry about finances. Those two things don't change. And I think we really need to consider the human element. Very simple. What we've seen, the benefits are minuscule. The real dollar cost is big bucks. It's large. The human factor is also large. Please don't forget it. I urge you to vote no.
Before we go any further, how many of you out there intend to use view graphs? Anybody? Nobody? Good. Then I'm going to risk moving this back out there. And I'll recognize, let me see, the lady at the back who's on the pro side who's been waiting the longest.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Sandra Whaley. I live at 1 River Street. I have a 5th grader and a 1st grader at Merriam School. My husband and I have lived in Acton for 18 years, so I've watched this debate about schools take many forms over the years. One thing seems clear to me as I listen to this, and I reflect on my own experience way back when in school, which is that large classrooms can work if you wish to accept a passive style of education, which was appropriate in the 50s and 60s and before that. It is not appropriate today's educational goals, as Mr. Zelikow was talking about. We no longer rely on worksheets, memorization, and standardized tests to evaluate our kids on a regular basis. We add a whole lot more to that as we expect our kids to become the kind of kids with creative problem-solving abilities and teamwork abilities. It requires a different educational model. It requires a different kind of physical setting. And for those who have not had the opportunity to visit the schools and see this in operation, I strongly encourage you to do it because it's difficult to imagine until you're there. At McCarthy Town, I don't believe anyone has spoken about this evening. I was a little bit late coming in, and pardon me if I'm repeating. At McCarthy Town, there is currently a 6th grade class which is being taught in a cafeteria. In a cafeteria with no full-time aide. This is overcrowding at its worst. There are 26 kids doing this. Can you imagine? The acoustics of that cafeteria were not set up for children to be learning, let alone in the 50s, especially not now. I'd like to go on to say that I have witnessed on many issues very impressive presentations by Mr. Cadillac, and tonight was nonetheless impressive. However, I've also noticed a similarity in some of these presentations. They rely on wonderful view graphs and an appeal to prudent fiscal sensibilities with an implied value of common sense. Underneath it all is a level of concern and somewhat fear that somehow money is being misspent. It's been my impression in 18 years that our town has pinched pennies and cut costs when it is needed to be. And true, the school committee has not necessarily followed the same model as the town government, but it has come damn close, in my opinion, as I watch what happens at my own children's schools now that I have children in the schools, and I see what they don't have and what they do have and what they get by on. I would also like to point out that Mr. Cadillac was one of the people who 8 years ago, I believe it was, maybe it was 7 years ago too, who was telling us that it was wise to move Town Hall to to the Merriam School because he did not believe that the school committee's population statistics supported the eventuality of opening Merriam for more students. And I believe that time has shown that...
Ms. Whaley, let me stop you here.
Yes.
I don't think it's really worthwhile to test our memories on what Mr. Cadillac did or did not do 7 or 8 years ago. So he's shaking his head no, and I think he feels he didn't say some of those things. So if you could confine your remarks to what he said tonight, I think it would be appropriate, or what you think this evening, please. Thank you.
And likewise, arguments were made in the past about the prudence of spending town money and support for a system-wide sewering. If we had passed those sewers back when we had first proposed them, they would be at a fraction of the cost. Those people who are standing here tonight saying don't spend the money now are not looking at the fact that the finances for this project are at the lowest they will be probably for quite some time, and now is the time to act. A presentation which causes doubt through obfuscation is not one to believe, in my opinion. I would like to end by asking a question of Mr. Zelikow, which is I was wondering if you have a slide or something presented or just some facts about what other towns around us are spending per pupil. Thank you.
Why don't you just tell them what it is, Phil? I'm not moving this again.
But, Mr. Moderator, it would look so persuasive on your forehead. That noble Roman forehead.
Actually, a few years ago, you couldn't have done it. Now you can project it on my forehead easily.
I'd be happy to answer the question. Per pupil expense for the last year in which we have comparable multi-town statistics, which is fiscal 95, Acton all-day per pupil expenditures was $4,519, $4,519. Hold that number, $4,519. In Lincoln, they spent $8,252, which is $3,700 more. In Concord, they spent less, $6,646, $2,127 more per pupil than Acton. In Carlisle, they spent $59.83, $1,464 more per pupil than Acton. In Sudbury, they spent $54.31, $912 per pupil more than Acton. Now, I'm not arguing that we should match those per pupil expenditures. All I would say is that we're clearly not being overly lavish.
Mr. Bolger?
Very briefly, Mr. Moderator. 2 years ago, I was associate member of the FinCom, and we had attended the Acton 2000, which these sheets in February 96 were handed out. The capital projects for 97 through 2001 are listed here as $79 million to $91 million. That's through 2001. In the balance now, by the way, the school expansion here, which does not address the expansion of another 20 or 30 million for the regional high school coming down the pike, okay? But the school expansion here was 10 to $20 million. Million, not 21 million. What started as 50 million 2 or 3 months ago is now been cut to 21 million. Oh, as a former manager of GTE, could I work over that budget and get that down to $21 million? The bottom line is this: in the balanced best interest of this town, and I have fought against the every year more, gimme. The town operating offices and the town hall have lived with, I don't recall the numbers anymore, 4 to 5 million. The school always gets 14, 12 million, 14 million, $16 million between the two schools. Well, I can't use the languages because there's ladies here, but they are up there on the town, for the town, suck hind, and I won't say the rest, okay? But in the balanced best interest of this town, and this, since this is 79 to 91 million through 2001, not saying what it'll be in 2003 or 2005, I have to compliment Gene and John when they point out the cost and the taxes are going to double in the next 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I don't care. They can argue all they want about the number of years it takes, but the taxes are going to double. So figure what you get now with what you're paying now with the reevaluation, and you can say double that in 5 years, because we're going to give more and more and more and more to the school. So in the balanced best interest of the town, all right, let me just inject something. For those of you that don't know me, I happen to have 4 degrees. I used to be in the space business, and I have 4 degrees. So I am not against education. I am not against education. I'm also a registered PE, license 7501 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm a graduate of the 3-year management training program. So I have appreciable background. I am not against education. But gimme drives me bananas. I've been listening to Charlie Cadillac for years, and Charlie keeps crying in the wind because when these things are attended, they're attended, and the PACK brings out the PAC that's interested in the school, not in the rest of the people. Thank God we have a vote coming up, so that maybe we'll have more of a turnout instead of the turnout that's going to decide 200, 300, 400, 500 people here that's going to decide this issue, okay, whether it goes on the ballot. So my closing comment is that in the balanced best interest of the town, not the school, but the town, I am urging that we consider not voting in favor of this thing. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
The gentleman at the front.
Hi, I'm Joe Caratanudo from 1 Mohegan Road, and I have a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. My wife and I moved to Acton before we had kids, well before we had kids. One of the main reasons was the school system. I think a lot of people here can say the same. But I have 2 points. The first point is that what we're considering tonight is the here and now. I'm hearing a lot of speculation about what we're going to pay in the future. As we've seen with our solid waste disposal and other decisions from the past, we can't always predict the future. The numbers we're asked to give now have been shown to be significantly lower than the numbers we're going to be asked in the future to give towards the junior high and the high school. I realize that. However, those decisions aren't being made tonight. I think all they do is kind of confuse the issue. What we need to decide tonight is on the K through 6 and the situation that we have now and the situation we're going to have in the next couple of years, which I don't think there's a question about. My second point is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I don't know if it puts me in the minority, but I'm a musician at heart, an artist, and I've seen the schools taking a beating on their arts departments. And I think that a good example in the current news today is the movie Titanic. $200 million went into that movie, and it's making $200 million, and by the end will probably have made its projected $400 million. Arts, like it or not, are one of the biggest exports we have in this country. It's probably the only export we have that's going up, not down. So, I mean, this is not just a esoteric discussion about the values of the arts. In fact, arts are big bucks. Also, arts are very important. I am not limited to being a musician. In fact, I only do it on the side, just for fun. But I do have a degree in engineering, and I'm also a highly skilled computer administrator. And the arts go hand in hand with these things, as many of my peers were in the same boat. And the numbers that we've looked at tonight and the biggest debates that we've seen tonight have all been about class sizes. That completely ignores the issue of the special programs, of the arts, and even of the sciences. These topics are not giving any weight so far that I've seen. These are significant things. We can't keep pushing the computer lab into a closet. We can't keep sticking the music program in the hallway. And if we do, we're only hurting ourselves, we're only hurting our kids, we're only hurting the future. And this is the decision we're making tonight. Now, we can nitpick all night about 21 to 23 kids in the classroom. I think that is not the issue that we need to think about. The issue is the 26 kids in the cafeteria, the band in the hallway, the kids with the library all around them while they're taking class. These are not the 23 versus the 25, and maybe we can cut some corners there and have a slightly bigger class. But the question is, we don't have the space for these other issues, for these other topics, for these other subjects that we keep pushing to the side and we're going to pay for. So I'd like to conclude back onto my first point that the decision we're making tonight is now. I would recommend that we don't confuse the future with now. We can't predict the future. Anyone will know from physics, there's chaos theory and entropy and all these things that we can't predict. The future is going to be what it's going to be. We need to decide now what we're going to do for our kids in K through 6. Thank you.
Lady at the back.
Mr. Speaker, Julia Kropp from 3 Chestnut Street, and I move the previous question.
That is not reasonable. Do I hear a second? All in favor of cutting off debate, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. Hard to guess at 2/3, you know, from the voice here. Would all who would like to cut off debate please stand? Please be seated. Would all who would not like to cut off debate please stand? All who would like to continue debate. I believe debate has been cut off. 1/3 of the people in the room are not standing. We will vote. Yes.
Point of procedure.
Yes, go
Mr.
right ahead, sir.
Moderator. I don't know if this is an appropriate motion at the cut of debate, but I would ask the auditorium to entertain the concept of taking this vote by secret ballot. I understand that there may be some issues in logistics of this with such a large crowd, and I'll defer to the town clerk as to whether this is conceivably possible.
It is possible. I'll take the motion if you make it.
Okay. I move that the capital appropriations article before the special town committee be voted with secret ballot.
Do I hear a second? Any debate? Yes, Mr. Zelikow.
Of course, if folks feel uncomfortable, I think that I'm happy to support the secret ballot. Myself, I'm against the secret ballot. The history of the secret ballot in this country is that it was adopted to avoid the intimidation by gun-wielding tyrants and by patronage-wielding bosses. It is not meant as a device to avoid the scowls of neighbors in front of whom you have taken a stand.
Other comment? Other comment on the motion to have the secret ballot? Takes a majority to pass. I see no one. Yes, sir. Go to the microphone and introduce yourself, please.
My name is Tom Kadaya, and I've been in this town here for 42 years and voted every time, and I've been retired since '84. Now, this whole program is going to be kind of tough to take as the years go by. I'm using by saving. But on this other question, I think it should be done on a secret ballot, and it should be done on the time when you have your town elections, where everybody has a chance. Seniors and everybody else and handicapped can't get here tonight to voice their opinion. And I think that when you have your town voting for all you yourself, when it's up for vote for stay in office, there's the time you can put that on there and let the people decide. Everybody will get a shot at this, even have to get people in the cars to bring it down.
Just a moment. Sit down, please. No, don't sit down. Stand up. You made a point of order. See this? People pay attention here, don't they? What is your point of order, sir?
That this is not on the topic of whether we should have a secret ballot.
Well, I think it largely is. Let's let the gentleman finish. He's asking for a secret ballot. He's giving some reasons why it is. Let's give him a little latitude. Not a lot, but a little bit, okay? Go ahead, sir.
Well, with that, thanks a lot, buddy. That's all I have to say.
Okay. What were we talking about, the chaos theory a moment ago? We're close to it. All right, are you going to speak on whether we ought to have a secret ballot or not?
More or less.
Let's have it more.
Jim Moss, I live on Mohegan Road. I just don't understand it. Cutoff debate and secret ballot. What are you afraid of?
Any other question on the secret ballot? Comment, Mr. Aronson.
Steve Aronson, 236 Newtown Road. I think, in fact, there are a number of issues where secret ballot are probably appropriate, not the least of which would be anything having to do with a vote pertaining to a public official or a town employee. We had such a consideration a couple of years past when talking about civil service and the police chief, for instance. That made some people uncomfortable, and I think probably that is an appropriate time for secret ballot. I don't see the need here, especially because there is a secret ballot going to take place shortly if this motion passes. And that secret ballot is the ultimate of secret ballots. It's when you go to the polls, and behind a curtain, you decide whether you agree with this town meeting's vote or not. So I think putting a secret ballot now is inappropriate.
Mr. Cadillac.
Mr. Moderator, let me try and make a point to those of you who feel that you don't need a secret ballot. I don't. But let me tell you something very seriously. As you know, my name's been in the paper, so I get phone calls, and a rather amazing number of those phone calls, as well as people who stop me at Kmart or on the sidewalk, tell me, you know, I agree with you, but don't expect me to stand up at town meeting and vote that way. And I don't, I am uncomfortable with that position. But there are many, many people who feel that way for their own reasons, whether it is because they have some employment connection that is, in their view, at risk, whether they are uncomfortable with the scowl of their neighbors, excuse me, whether they have children in school. I am not here to argue for their reasons, but I am very clear in my mind that there are many people who could feel, we don't know which way they're going to vote, but they're uncomfortable. They feel pressure voting on what is perhaps a little bit of a controversial issue in this kind of setting. Normally, secret ballots at annual town meeting would really, really hold things up, but the only reason we're here tonight is to vote on this one thing. The mechanics of it, believe me, have been worked out. And please, for the sake of those, not for yourself, but for the sake of those who are uncomfortable voting otherwise, let's have a true measure of how people feel. Let's give them a chance to vote on this by secret ballot. Thank you.
Other comment? I see nobody standing. We will vote now. All in favor of the motion for a secret ballot, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. I would say it is lost, but before I do that, let's try it standing one time. All in favor, please stand. Thank you. Please be seated. Would all opposed to a secret ballot please stand? Clearly lost. Yes, thank you. Be seated. The secret ballot has clearly lost. We will now vote. We will not have a secret ballot. This vote takes a 2/3 majority to pass. We will try it once with a voice vote, and then we'll have the tellers come in and count you. Would all in favor of the motion as originally read say aye? Aye. Opposed, say nay. Nay. Will the tellers come forward, please?
Mr. Moderator, may
Yes,
I
sir.
ask you a question?
Yes, go ahead.
After they take this count, thought he was going to hit me. After you take the count and all that, can you tell me, you will tell us what the total is? Will you tell us the number of people who came in here, if the tally to one to the other, of the people? Because a few years ago, we had this situation. I don't think you were the moderator, Mr. Kinsley, I think. it was.
No, I was the moderator.
You
mean
were the
when we
moderator.
had,
All right.
There was a guy sitting right there, John McLaughlin,
Yeah,
who
well,
asked, and we
you
had
know
more
what it was.
people who checked in.
Sure,
I mean,
there was
more
more
people
votes.
voted than checked in.
Yeah,
How many are here from Chicago? I want to know that right now.
I'm from Acton, 42
Okay.
years ago.
We have that problem solved now, because when people come in now, they get a little card.
Oh, sure.
And only the people with the card can vote. So if you didn't get a card, I mean, if you checked in as a registered voter, you had a card, and we only count people with cards. So we can't now have more people voting than check in.
In other words, you're going to pick up our cards.
You have to have your card.
I give cards and I give it to the teller.
No, you don't give it to the teller, you just show it.
Why can't I show it? Here I go, babe. And then sit down. Joe comes on the other side.
Because I know you're an honest man, and you wouldn't do that.
Not when I live in Acton.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Over here, this way,
Where are
FinCom.
we? Yes,
We have a
right.
request.
Yes, Mr. Mackey. Yes.
My name is Bob Miller, for those who don't know me. One thing I just want to remind people, regardless of which way this vote goes tonight, earlier this evening, John Pavin, the chair of the Planning Committee, spoke to probably a third of you about the process that's under the works for looking at the town plan. Regardless of whether this vote is up or down, long-term, this town has a concern regarding capital budget planning and budget planning period, and the burden on the tax base, particularly residential tax base. The only way to address that is to get this level of participation in a zoning planning committee that is being chaired by the planning board now to focus on how we can develop the commercial property in this town and spread the tax base. I just call it to everyone's attention since not everyone is here earlier.
Thank you. I think the tellers are over here getting ready to count the vote. You know, I am reminded, I've been privileged to be the moderator here for quite a few years, and this is the first town meeting in many, many years where Judy Donald hasn't been present, and I miss her. Yeah, you'll have to show your cards for the count. They're a little blue card.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
During this gap, since this auditorium is packed tonight, I'm going to do something as a parent. You look up at these plays and musicals. 2 weeks from now, this high school is putting on an amazing musical. It is different than anything I've seen in my 20 years in the town. It is really different.
And what is it, sir?
It's called Once Upon an Island. The entire thing is sung. There is no dialogue. The entire cast is on the stage the entire time. And you see all these teenagers dancing like they really knew how to do it.
Thank you. I think you can appreciate the logistics of counting a number this large is difficult. Well, you How do you, no, I don't want you to tell me, I want her to tell me. Belle, how do you want it done? When we vote, we're about ready to vote. I will ask all in favor to stand. I know this is tough, but the voting's important, so no, not yet, not yet. Not yet, thank you. We're going to ask the yeses to stand, we'll count them, and then we'll ask the noes to stand. But as the tellers go through this, because it's hard to see and count because the aisles are filled, everybody will stand, and when they're completed with a row, they will kind of motion you to sit down. So you will kind of know when to do that because they will have counted a row and the tellers will direct you to sit down. So you'll see people sitting, and that'll mean that they've been counted. Are we ready to start now? No? We are. All right, please. All in favor of the motion as read, please stand. So excuse me, it's just been pointed out to me that a lot of people are leaving. I wouldn't do that if I had voted. It is unlikely that this vote would have to be recounted. Very unlikely, but I wouldn't necessarily leave until the vote is in. You can go back to talking now if you'd like. All right, now are we ready to count the no votes, please? Where's Ms. Cho? Are we ready to count the noes? We are, okay. Would all opposed to the motion please stand? All opposed, please stand. These are the no votes now. All opposed, please stand.
No, but I just need you to.
Please say no. Please say no. I don't have a car. I don't even have a car. I know. See, Bill? Doesn't even count. I do. All the tellers have that instruction. It's a bylaw. It's a bylaw. I want to get his attention. What he said, all the noise, he was going to stand up, and I said, watch, you'll have hard feelings.
Okay, I just want to make sure you didn't have somebody else plan to say something. Okay, I'm ready. No, I just want to make sure you didn't have any community announcements. No, I'll be very quick.
They're very close. That doesn't obviously well.
Bill? Bill? Very close, very close.
Excuse me, we have the vote. There were 594 yes votes. There were 277 no votes. The motion has carried. It needed 297 no votes to fail. It had 277 no votes. 594 yes votes. I declare we have a two-thirds majority. The motion has carried.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move we dissolve this meeting.
Do I hear a second? All in favor of dissolving the meeting, say aye. Opposed, say nay. Meeting is dissolved.
I never tape anything. I hate it. I do it all day here.